Hey everyone, I'm Nikhil with Esteem. This is a booktube channel by film, television, and gaming composer specializing in book adaptations, and these are my 10 sci-fi novels or series that I want to complete. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Again, I'm Nikhil with Esteem. I'm a composer for film and television and gaming, specializing in book adaptations. You might have heard some of my music in The Wheel of Time Season 2, His Dark Materials Season 3, and the official Brent Weeks companion album to the series Lightbringer. Now, I wanted to take some time to talk a little bit about sci-fi, which is a genre I'm super passionate about. I've read a bunch of books and a bunch of series in that category already over the years. Remembrance of Earth's Past is a huge standout for me. The Three Body Problem, which is kind of more hard science fiction, and the Sun Eater series, which is probably a little bit more sci-fantasy if you were to get down to the nitty-gritty of it. Really wanted to highlight today 10 sci-fi series or standalone novels that I really want to put higher up on my TBR, ones that I want to complete if I've already started them, or to start them if I haven't started them yet. So that's kind of the impetus of this video. You know, I think sci-fi is a very unique genre in that you can have kind of space opera type of science fiction. You can have more lighthearted science fiction. That's the big questions that kind of make you think afterwards and that are very science heavy. There's a ton of books in the sci-fi genre that also have prestige, that are standalones, that, you know, didn't have any sequels, or even that the first book in a series could be treated as a standalone in its own right, and also have a plethora of series as well to look at. So that's why I kind of want to combine these top 10 into one video that's kind of cohesive and hopefully kind of shed some light on some that maybe you haven't heard of. So let me know in the comments after you watch this video if you have any to add to this list, because I'm always looking for more books to bust my TBR with and get distracted by. It's always a passion of mine to, you know, make promises about TBRs and then break them every month. So whatever we can do to help that cause, right? So without further ado, number 10 is a book series that I've already started. It was written by two authors that go by the pseudonym James S.A. Corey, and that is none other than The Expanse. So I've read about 3 books out of the 9 books so far, so I'm at about 33%. Now, that doesn't count the side quest novellas, that doesn't count the short story collection. I definitely want to get to those at some point. I've heard that it's a good idea to kind of intersperse those within the context of the novels, but I'm definitely, you know, really excited about the main series, and I probably will read the other material as filler later on to complete. But let me know if I'm not doing that correctly. Let me know if I should kind of, you know, integrate both in one reading experience. So for those of you who don't know what The Expanse is about, it's basically a kind of a near future set of novels set, you know, maybe a couple hundred years after present day. Humanity has discovered the creation of the Esteem drive, which is an engine that's capable of producing continuous acceleration, which allows them to explore the solar system. And then I think, as far as I understand, as the books progress, you know, it kind of expands out into the deeper space. So kind of interesting how that's structured. Now, I've read the first 3 books, which are much more about the solar system at large, you know, kind of the interplay of the politics of the different factions, the planets, the asteroid belt, they call them belters. Languages get integrated with each other over hundreds of years, and kind of some of the old problems of humanity end up rearing their head, you know, in this near future as well. So it's a really fascinating series. There is kind of a crew that you come to love. They've got, like, each one's got their own personality, and it's got almost kind of a heist meets sci-fi kind of a feeling, at least in those first 3 books that I read. And I've heard that, you know, as the series progresses, it becomes more of a full-on space opera. So I'm really excited to check that out. If you haven't checked it out yet, I'm going to leave a link in the description where you can kind of read more about it and purchase as well if you'd like to. I'm not going to put these in any particular order either. They're just ones I want to get to, and they're not ranked. But let me know if I should rank them, and let me know in the comments. Now, the next sci-fi series I'm really excited to complete. And, you know, I was kind of lukewarm on the first book, honestly. It had a little bit more of a Hunger Games meets outer space kind of a feel. And I've never really been, honestly, that big a fan of the Hunger Games. So it didn't really, you know, resonate with me probably as much as many other people. But I've heard the next book, Onwards, ends up kind of taking a hard left turn. And I always love those hard left turns in second books. So I'm very excited to read. And I hope you'll join me in reading Red Rising. Now, what is Red Rising about? So there is a colored class system. So there's golds at the top, reds at the bottom. And reds are kind of subservient, and they're digging in this mining colony on Mars. And there's a particular main character, Darrow, who is trying to infiltrate the ranks of the golds to bring them down from the inside. And from what I've read in that first book, it's a pretty gritty kind of sci-fi story. Very, you know, almost like a Game of Thrones in space kind of a feel. You know, I thought the first book was okay, but I've heard the books get, you know, much better from here on out. And of course, I had to buy the whole set, so it's sitting on my bookshelf now. So I definitely want to complete that. So the second series I want to complete, and I've read the first book, so that is 14.29%. And that's keeping in mind that the final book, I think it's called Red God, the seventh and final book, is not going to be out until probably next year or something like that. So I have some time to catch up. So join me if you'd like. And, you know, I'm going to be reading Golden Sun and Morning Star, the second and third book, respectively, at some point this year. And I'm going to try to finish the fourth, fifth, and sixth next year, and then kind of get that ready just in time for when the seventh book comes out. There's no official announcement, I don't think, but I can double check that and find out. But yeah, so Red Rising, the second one. Now, the third series is part of a greater universe, a very popular greater universe. And when the sequel trilogy movies were being made, a lot of these books were decanonized from what I understand. But from a lot of readers who were constant readers of the Star Wars greater universe, they said the Star Wars kind of EU was much more representative of the Star Wars legacy than what the sequel trilogy movies became. So I am very interested in kind of dipping my toes into that world. I've actually never read any of the Star Wars books, so I'm really excited to read. The third series I want to complete and read is the Thrawn trilogy. So I don't know too much about this, but from what I understand is kind of a Darth Vader type character that's more cold and calculating than Darth Vader was, and that is Thrawn. And this is kind of his story arc. And a lot of people say that's some of the heights of Star Wars post-original trilogy. So anything like that, I definitely want to explore. And I think it would be a great way to use that as an impetus to explore the greater Star Wars universe at large. So the third series I want to complete is the Star Wars EU, but more specifically, the Thrawn trilogy. So the fourth sci-fi entry I really want to read, The Rendezvous with Rama. So that is by Arthur C. Clarke, who wrote 2001 Space Odyssey, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, and yet criminally so, I have not read any Arthur C. Clarke. So I am long overdue for an exploration of his works, and I wanted to start with Rendezvous with Rama. So that is going to be my fourth entry in the sci-fi category that I really want to complete this year. So what is it about? So I'm going to read a little quick blurb here that I found out. It's set in the 2130s. So the story involves a 50 by 20 kilometer cylindrical alien starship that entered the solar system. So it's like a first contact type of a tale. The story is told from the point of view of a group of human explorers who intercept the ship in an attempt to unlock its mysteries. Sounds really intriguing. I've heard, you know, I've read a lot of first contact kind of novels and stories, but I've heard this one particular one stands out on its own, and it's being adapted currently. So any adaptation automatically is on my radar. And, you know, the fact that it's kind of a smaller book, it's only a couple hundred pages, I think 250 something pages. So, you know, it's a quick read. I've heard that it's a book that really makes you think. And if I really want to read, you know, the sequel, then I'll definitely read the sequel. I actually have both of them sitting on my bookshelf. Thank God for library sales, I tell you. Like, I found so many great finds there. But anyways, that's a topic for another video, a video which you can check out up here. But in any case, I really am excited to check out Rendezvous with Rama. That's going to be my fourth entry. Now, the fifth entry is a series of novels, and that is The Hyperion Cantos by Dan Simmons. Now, I've heard about this all over BookTube. A lot of people swear that it's like among the greats of sci-fi. And of course, if that's the case, then I have to check it out. Now, sci-fi, I absolutely love, and there's a lot of entries you're going to find on this list that are like, you haven't read that already? But, you know, I'm a little slow on the take, but I'm excited to catch up with you all. Hyperion Cantos has 4 novels in it, I believe, and that is Hyperion, The Fall of Hyperion, Endymion, and The Rise of Endymion. Now, I'm going to start with Hyperion and see how I like it. And if I want to continue, I'll continue. And if I don't, I've heard Hyperion, you know, as a standalone is just a great entry to get yourself into that world. So I'm really excited to check it out. And now, as far as what this is about, let's see. So it says for Hyperion, it was published in 1989, and it is kind of structured like the Canterbury Tales. And it's a story that weaves interlocking tales of a diverse group of travelers sent on a pilgrimage to the time tombs on Hyperion. The travelers have been sent by the hegemony, the government of the human star systems, the All Thing, and the Church of the Final Atonement, alternatively known as the Shrike Church, to make a request of the Shrike. As they progress in their journey, each of the pilgrims tells their tale. So seeing things from different points of view sounds like a fascinating thing because, you know, the whole idea of like reliable and unreliable narrators kind of fascinates me. The idea that like stories could be maybe different fascinates me. So I'm really excited to check this out. And even if I knew nothing about it, the fact that it's been talked about ad nauseum on BookTube means that it's something I got to check out, at least the first book. So that is going to be my next entry, and that is Hyperion Cantos. My sixth entry is a book that I'm actually going to be reading this coming month. So I'm really excited on finally being able to dive in with this. I had actually mentioned it in a weekly update, linking it up here. And I'm actually going to be reading this with a filmmaker friend of mine. We're going to be doing a buddy read, and he's just kind of waiting for his copy to arrive from the library. And I'm chomping at the bit because I've had this book on my bookshelf forever. But of course, it is a series. And this one is called Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. The Children of Time series consists of 3 novels. There's The Children of Time, then book 2 is Children of Ruin, and book 3 is Children of Memory. And like Hyperion Cantos, I'm going to start with the first book and see how I like it. You know, I always feel like with TBRs and things like that, my goal is not to, you know, get through as many books as possible, as fast as possible. My goal is not to read everything, even if I don't like it. My goal is to kind of really curate the experience with like, I'm going to try book 1. If I heard it gets better in book 2, I'll go on to book 2, you know. I always like to give things a shot, but I also want to kind of take things at a pace that doesn't feel overwhelming and keeps things really fun. So I'm going to start with the first book, Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and see where things go from there. Now, what I understand about it is there is supposedly, you know, a human civilization and an alternate civilization, and you kind of watch them evolve over time. Something like that. And that sounds really fascinating from a biological and physiological perspective. It'd be really cool to see how, you know, Adrian Tchaikovsky captures the biology part of it, the science. I love hard science in science fiction, so that immediately sounds really appealing to me. So number 6 is going to be Children of Time. Now, just doing a quick cut in here, because I almost forgot number 7. Getting a little late here, and I've had a full day of work, so please bear with me. So number 7 is a standalone novel that I only just heard about maybe about a year ago on Mike's Book Reviews channel. I'm going to link that down here so you can check it out. He's like my favorite booktuber, so if you haven't seen his stuff, then definitely check out his amazing videos. But I'd heard about Canticle for Leibowitz, which is a book that was written in October 1959. It is a 300 or so page book, and it's a post-apocalyptic novel. And I absolutely love post-apocalyptic novels. So anything in that kind of subgenre, I'm always very interested in. And I'm going to read a little excerpt that I found here. It's set in a Catholic monastery in the desert of the southwestern United States after a devastating nuclear war. The book spans thousands of years as civilization rebuilds itself. The monks of the Albertian Order of Leibowitz preserve the surviving remnants of man's scientific knowledge until the world is again ready for it. Now, I would imagine a book like this is philosophical in nature that would, in a short amount of time, make people really ask the big questions of what would humanity do if we were able to survive something so catastrophic and cataclysmic as that? You know, how would we march forward as a civilization? And the idea of preserving scientific knowledge for future generations, it kind of makes you think as well. So I'm really excited about this book, and I just wanted to mention number 7, Canticle for Leibowitz, and I'm also linking that in the description if you want to check it out as well. Number 8 is going to be a standalone. So this particular one is by the author Michael Crichton, and I read, gosh, I must have read Jurassic Park when I was like 5 or 6. I was like really trying to get into adult novels. I always wanted to copy like what the adults were doing. So besides that, I hadn't really read anything of Michael Crichton, and it's been so long, I'm probably going to reread it at some point. But the one I want to start with is the sci-fi novel Sphere. So I've heard this is one of Michael Crichton's greats, and it's, again, sitting on my shelf. Like, I have a bunch of Michael Crichton books, and of course, I haven't read, like, any of them. So what is Michael Crichton's Sphere about? So the story follows, and I'm going to read this little passage here. The story follows Norman Johnson, a psychologist engaged by the United States Navy, who joins a team of scientists assembled to examine a spacecraft of unknown origin discovered on the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. The novel begins as a science fiction story, but quickly transforms into a psychological thriller, developing into an exploration of the nature of the human imagination. Now, I've heard that from a lot of people that this is very mind-bending sci-fi. And I love mind-bending sci-fi. So this sounds like it's right up my alley. It's not too long. It's a little less than 400 pages. So, you know, if there's a standalone kind of sci-fi that is not going to completely like bust my TBR in terms of page count, that's definitely something that is instantly attractive to me. That's one thing I really like that is a hallmark of that genre, is like after reading chunky fantasy books or historical fiction books that are like 1,000 pages long plus, it's nice to be able to pick up a standalone like this and know you're going to get a contained reading experience that still makes you think, still makes you ask the big questions. So I'm really excited to check that one out, and I'm going to definitely tackle that this year. Now, when I'm going to sleep, I don't know, but that's going to be a different story. More books, less sleep is my motto for 2024, I guess. Number 8 is a series, and it's a series that's been adapted for film. And it has had 2 films out. I think you might be able to guess where this is going. There may be some sandworms involved. So I read the first Dune book about 4 or 5 years ago. My then girlfriend, now my wife, she got it for me as a gift. Got me like the beautiful Barnes & Noble collector's edition. And I read it cover to cover and I absolutely loved it. I love the adaptations, part 1 and part 2. I think I like part 2 even more than part 1. And so I'm excited to kind of continue down that journey. Now, there are 6 books in the series. And then there were some other books, I think, written by Frank Herbert's son, Brian Herbert. Now, I've heard that the 6 books are more canon than the Brian Herbert stuff, but, you know, I'm going to kind of dip my toes in. I'm going to read the next 2, which are Children of Dune and Dune Messiah. So I'm going to read those 2, and I might dip my toes into the 4th entry, God Emperor of Dune, and then kind of see if I want to continue on that. You know, it seems like it has its tendrils that reaches across generations, really, and inspires authors anew. So any series like that, I'm going to want to read. So I'm going to try to get to them soon. But I think, you know, it might get kicked down the road a little bit and into next year. But Dune is definitely my number 9. My 10th and final entry is a standalone book. Now, the standalone book was written in 1953. So it's the oldest book on my list, I think. It's only, you know, a couple hundred pages long. It was also written by Arthur C. Clarke. So I'm going to read 2 Arthur C. Clarke books this year. And this one is none other than Childhood's End. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm going to read a little passage about that. The story follows the peaceful alien invasion of Earth by the mysterious overlords whose arrival begins decades of apparent utopia under indirect alien rule. But at what cost? So that sounds very intriguing to me. Like, I love that idea of, like, if humans were to get what we wanted, you know, maybe a peaceful existence, what would be the price we're willing to pay for that? What is the price that we inadvertently pay for that? So that sounds fascinating. I've heard it's a really makes you think kind of book. So I'm definitely excited to check that out. That is definitely going to happen this year. It's just a question of when, but I'm looking forward to reading it very soon. So that completes my 10 sci-fi novels, standalones, or series that I want to read or complete in the coming months. So let me know what you think about this list. Let me know if I left anything off. I know there's some other ones that I was looking at that I really wanted to put on this list, but these are my top 10. There might be, you know, some more that stragglers that come into the fold, but let me know if anything else should be on this list or if I should move anything, subtract anything, add anything. But, you know, it's always great talking about these books with you all because I always get such great recommendations from you. And for that, I'm really grateful. So thanks for, you know, watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already and hit the notification bell so you can kind of be apprised of new content as I release it. I'm kind of gearing up to 3 to 4 videos a week now. And it's great. I really look forward to continuing the conversation with you all. All right. Thank you again. I'm Nikhil with Self-Esteem. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Happy reading. And I'll see you next time. Take care.